wakes. Daddy is a zombie. 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 He don't talk to me. So, I was 8 years old and we were living in Otara, and my father was sort of locked up at high security sort of in Oakley. And when I was a young fella, I didn't sort of understand what was going on, you know, what was happening to my dad. I couldn't understand why he was acting like he was, and I couldn't understand like what he was doing. So I thought he could like snap out of it, or that he was putting it all on, or stuff like that.
And of course, John was at that age, little 8-year-old, where, you know, my dad's bigger than your dad. My dad can be, you know, little boys, their father is such an important person in their lives.
When I was about 19, I sort of had the understanding of what had happened to him when I sort of had a breakdown myself. Like, I was sort of overdoing things too much, just rushing around, playing rugby, working after varsity, working after school, and just doing too much. In 1984, I was in my first year at university. Went straight to university from school. I was working as a cleaner in the afternoons and went to lectures in the morning. Then, as the year went on, exams came up. Had 7 exams, and my last exam was particularly stressful. It was a psychology exam, and that was on a Monday, Monday the 5th. At the end of the week, after exams and working full time for Manukau Tech, I had an argument with my mother. It was on a Friday night, and on the Monday I was in Kingseat.
It all happened just so quickly. I mean, I just was blown away. He had really shown no signs, whereas with Paul, my husband, and Sharon, his older sister, there had been a slower onset, and I was aware that something was not quite right. But John just, boom, it was just one almighty bang.
Have any of you heard of Kingseat Hospital? Or it's way out in the Wop-Wops, right? It's kind of a brick hospital in the middle of nowhere. I had this big argument with my mum on the Friday, and I couldn't sleep that night, and then I couldn't sleep the night after, and then couldn't sleep the night after that, and after about 3 nights without sleep, I was starting to misperceive reality. So I was starting to get a bit delusional, and I couldn't understand what was going on, and so I was getting quite high, and I was the world just seemed to be speeding up. Everything seemed to be getting faster, and I was quite manic. I met this guy called Jesus. They thought he was the savior. They pumped him full of medication, and he died of kidney failure. I met the Virgin Mary. I think she quite liked me. She's waiting for immaculate conception, but I think that's highly unlikely. Ooh, all those crazy people. The first thing that happened when I arrived here was that they actually asked me to put some pajamas on And then the next thing that they did is that I realised that there was an old man was having a delusion, and he said to me, "You're an old grey horse. You're an old grey horse." I went to turn to him and I said, "Yes, I am." And the nurses grabbed me and said, "Don't speak to the other patients." And that's when they put an injection in me, and then they took me to the side room, the lockup, where I was unconscious for a couple of days, and they actually were quite relieved that I came to, because I was only 8.5 stone, and they put an injection in me that was probably big enough to kill a horse anyway. I think for a guy that had just finished his first year at university, and then to have the treatment of being manhandled and having an injection stuck in you, and then taken off to a padded cell, it's sort of it wasn't really warranted, or didn't really seem to make much sense in the context. And that's just how they treated that was just the normal way of treating new patients. It scars you. It's for some people it scars them for life.
No bird in a cage can use its wings. No man behind bars has a reason to sing. The chains have changed, but the song's the same. So why don't you let me out? Or why don't you let me
I was sort of wandering around one day, and I came across this place, and there was people in nappies rolling around on the asphalt. It was absolutely terrified me, I suppose. I thought, well, if I've got mental illness, is this what's going to happen to me? And I think they were, some of them were intellectually handicapped, or failed frontal lobotomy patients. They're people who are very harmless, but they just sort of locked them in cages. And they also used to take their teeth out. So they used to take their teeth out so they wouldn't bite. I never really left. I left and I kept coming back. But I must admit I was very grateful to the social worker who put a lot of time and effort into finding me a placement in the community. And that's when I went to a Ponsonby boarding house, Baptist Mental Health.
I lived in a house in Ponsonby, close to the bus, on a dead-end street. Kind of place you go when you got nothing left to lose. You wouldn't want to live there if you could choose. Ooh, can't wake up in the morning, medicated memories, sedated days. Life hasn't always been this way, and it's no wonder. It's no wonder. It's no wonder. You really got nothing else. Life turned inside out. You've got those boarding house blues.
I wrote a lot of songs in this room, upstairs in this room. Wrote a lot of songs, and downstairs just used to have all my music. I think ending up in a place like this is just absolutely devastating. You never think that you'd ever end up in a place like this, but sort of once you've been there, it's like there's not too much further to go. No, not too much further to fall. But it was also a haven, like a real shelter from the storm type thing. Yeah, and so it saved a lot of us from the worst places out there, the other boarding houses, which are pretty awful, pretty ugly places, which I used to go and visit and stuff. Used to wander around, have cups of coffee, all the other places. So it's kind of transient, vagrant type lifestyle. Just wandering around all day. Yeah, from house to house, drinking coffee. Yeah. I was a house-to-house coffee suppler. One thing I suppose that I found it is that not everyone found it that easy to like live with a mental illness, and there was like a variety of people who sort of lived here who decided to sort of end their own life rather than sort of live with the diagnosis or the label that they'd been given, or just the way life was. So, and even in the psych community, there was like lots of different like suicides and deaths of different sorts of different people. I started to realize that the diagnosis they gave me was a label called manic depression. So they said that the illness that I had was manic depression, which kind of means that you sort of can't really sleep at night. It's kind of a bit like insomnia. You go days and days and days without sleep, and you can get quite high, and some people can get very depressed, and that's why it's called like manic depression. So there's manic episodes and depressed episodes. I thought that what had happened to me was just a one-off occurrence, that it would never happen again, and that it wasn't, it was something that I could just walk away from. But it wasn't, that it was like I had to realize that I had to change my lifestyle, had to change the way that I lived in order to just fit back into society. My next step was I ended up in, I suppose, Carrington Hospital for about four months. And then I realised that there was something wrong with me, and I had to really sort of take care of myself.
Did like God come into your life or anything?
I never thought I was Jesus or anything.
No,
but
like Christianity.
I turned away from God. I thought this was the blackest, deepest, darkest moment of my life, and I thought, what was the point of believing in God? Yeah. So it was a point where I turned away from any belief in God and just sort of into the boarding house scene, But can I also say that there's a faith. It doesn't matter what your faith is, but just to have a belief in yourself and a belief that things will be better in the future. So it doesn't matter, what you believe, as long as you, it can really hold you together. And that was another point when I sort of started coming back into it.
Are you on medication?
Medication is not something to be really angry about or upset about. If you are a diabetic, you might have to go on insulin. If you're an epileptic, you might have to go on Tegretol or something like that. And so if you're manic depressive, you might have to go on lithium. And the thing is about medication is that it allows me to just go out there and have fun, but still not go over the edge, and not go days and days without sleep and not lose it. So that's kind of there's a positive side to it. It's my safety catch. It's my safety valve. So I was on a lot of medication, like doped up to my eyeballs, and I used to go to this place called industrial therapy. At industrial therapy, there's a whole lot of people all doped up to their eyeballs, and we used to do stuff like packing sponges into plastic bags. So we'd put a whole lot of sponges into plastic bags, and the thing is though that I wasn't very good at industrial therapy, because I used to see like how many sponges I could fit into a plastic bag. So rather than put just 3 sponges in a plastic bag, I'd try and fit like 8 or something, but that's not what they wanted. Then I had the opportunity to go to a place called the Rehabilitation League. And at the Rehabilitation League, I managed to get my heavy transport licence. I got my HT licence, and I got my motorcycle licence. but once again, I was very heavily medicated, and they were going to kick me out of the rehabilitation league because I couldn't stay awake. But they reduced my medication, and I was able to stay on at the rehabilitation league. I applied for a job. It was an industrial therapy workshop for IHC. This was an industrial therapy, so I was going to be an industrial therapy supervisor, so that I was going to show other people how to put sponges in plastic bags. And I thought I was going to be really good at that job because I had lots of experience. Yeah, but the thing is that I never got the job. They wouldn't, because of my background with mental illness. They wouldn't give me the job, and I think that's at one stage. That's where discrimination really hit me. Where I actually had like good qualifications, or I had good references, or I hadn't done anything wrong. I was overqualified for the job, but I still couldn't get the job because of the label mental illness.
I guess that's something that really makes me angry, that the stigma does tend to blind people or make people put up before they even get to know the person, you're prejudged. It's the prejudice, because illness, that means this and this and this and this, without even actually checking it out.
Exactly.
Rather than give up, I said is that I'd work for them for free. So I volunteered. And I worked pretty steadily and pretty hard at IHC for 3 years, and decided that I wanted to get a qualification that went with my work experience. So I applied for training as an occupational therapist. The way that I express my anger is through my music, so I write really angry songs or sad songs. But that's the way that I let out my feelings. One of the most important things in my recovery was my music, and my music was a chance to really express myself. It was a chance to let out all the anger and the feelings of what I'd been experiencing, and it just gave me something to do, and I spent a lot of time doing music.
She had this clip and they had this old split ends on it, that Boulder's brass.
Oh yeah?
They had that clip on it. Well, that was just good. Yeah, bro. This is it. Quality toast, mate. That's what you can expect to have at Wall's house. Why do you think I come, Wall? It's not for the music. That's right, mate. It's not for the music.
I was one of the lucky ones who actually had a family that maybe stood by them, or a family that understood what was going on, whereas a lot of people, they were quite alone and isolated. I was quite lucky that I attended the local church and had a lot of support and met a lot of really nice people. Once you've been labelled with a mental illness, it's like it affects your self-esteem, it affects the way that you perceive yourself, and it also affects the way other people perceive you. A job gave me back some of my self-respect, and it also gave me an income. I could go back into the community. I cashed in my life assurance policy and started work on my album. The audio engineer that I was working with, we got on really well and decided to build a recording studio.
No reason why but a cry out. Gabriel, doesn't matter what you did, it's all over now. Gabriel,
it's just following your dreams, like just sort of this, and from the 20-year-old kid that was like learning guitar in a boarding house to sort of just, you know, being really true to his dream, sort of, getting sort of South Auckland studios off the ground.
Christmas, happy children, dented from little islands with promises of wealth and security, Palangi money in a factory. So you know when I stepped down that plane, I wanted to get right back on again. I was scared, being rejected, didn't know how to get accepted. Could you speak a language if it's unknown? Could you sit school see if it's in Samoan? Deported in the 60s as cheap labor, deported in the 70s and overstayer. Well, Captain Cook was a great navigator, but his people are all overstayers.
Put your confidence in us. Give us your faith and your hope. And under providence, all will be well.
Kia ora koutou ngā Pākehā. Haumahara o ngā tangata whenua.
Well, colonization of New Zealand's a failure, so why don't we all just go to Australia? Said a prayer for my father before he fell asleep. I think about your life now, all that came to be. Yes, I think about your life now, that it's complete. I never knew how hard you had tried, but I could not see. From the plains of Iowa, catching catfish in the creek, in a drifting tide of cornfields, stretched out far as I can see.